How do you like that?
I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
Answer generates further questions. Experiences.
You're gonna have to do better than that, Steven!
Untouched by timeless. Feel that, and what we're pointing to.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
Unicorns I love them, unicorns I love them.
Unicorns I love them. Yo, look at them.
Unicorns.
And I'm in the middle.
I'm in the middle. Goodbye, boo.
Unicorns I love them, unicorns I love them.
button.
Nobody ever does. And here I thought you could talk to me. I understand. Nobody ever does. And here I thought you could talk to me. I understand. And here I thought you could talk to me. I'll just have to think of something else. And here I thought you could talk to me. I thought you could talk to me. Things won't be the same. And here I thought you could talk to me. I'll just have to think of something else. And here I thought you could talk to me. I thought you could talk to me. Things won't be the same.
give time to stop calling me a man, because quite clearly I am not.
After all, enough's enough.
Hope everything turns out okay.
We empty out all the money in the cash register, and Mr. Duncan just, and Mr. Duncan just, look at this.
Kevin?
Mr. Duncan, take it right.
I broke your wind.
And Mr. Duncan,
I have won.
take it right.
And I found out.
Mr. Duncan, take it right.
I broke your wind.
And Mr. Duncan,
I have won.
take it right.
And I found out.
Hold it right there.
You didn't give him money.
Mr. Duncan is
My own money is bothering me. I have won. Everything. Kevin McAllister. A TV. Murder by Pally Nutritious. You didn't give him money.
Mr. Duncan is
My own money is bothering me. I have won. Everything. Kevin McAllister. A TV. Turtle Dove. Yeah.
Mr. Duncan is
My own money is bothering me. I have won. Everything. Kevin McAllister. Pally Nutritious. Yeah.
Mr. Duncan is
My own money is bothering me. I have won. Everything. Kevin McAllister. A TV. Murder by Pally Nutritious.
That's very nice.
we empty out all the money in the cash register, and Mr. Duncan don't see the pet. Duncan, and Mr. Duncan,
You need to settle down and mind your business.
and Mr. Duncan, Mr. Duncan, take it right.
I broke your wind.
And Mr. Duncan,
I have won. That's what my
Mr. Duncan, take it right.
I broke your wind.
And Mr. Duncan,
I have won.
Mr. Duncan is
My own money is bothering me. I have won. A TV. Splooging with your blunt. My Pally Nutritious.
better than
Yeah.
Steven.
So,
Mr. Duncan is
my own money is bothering me. I have won. A TV. Splooging with your blunt. My Pally Nutritious. Yeah. You didn't give him money.
Mr. Duncan is
My own money is bothering me. I have won. Splooging with your blunt. My Pally Nutritious. Yeah. You didn't give him money.
Mr. Duncan is
My own money is bothering me. I have won. A TV. Splooging with your blunt. My Pally Nutritious. Yeah.
I have to say that is an exceptionally weak argument. That is the word.
You ask a lot of stupid questions.
That is the word. That is the word.
Crowder with Crowder Studios, protected exclusively by Walther and Hopper.
The plaintiff!
Thanks to a funding from Mug Club, those false plaintiffs have pulled their hard strikes again, right on time. To the second.
They always do. I fight them for you, and we win every time. And you always act like it's a miracle.
Oh, my dear half-Asian tattoo. When each Mug Club member is paying $99 annually, $69 for students, veterans, or active military, he, she, or Z deserves miracles.
Right, boss.
That's right.
I just wanted you to think, if you're watching this in the archive, that you were too hammered to watch this show. But it's actually just me moving around that way. We have Senator Rand Paul on the show today.
Boom! Too hammered to be on the show.
Question of the day, what was your main takeaway from Wednesday's hearing on Barr? The highlight, if you will, we're going to be talking about that. Yeah. Venezuela, and usually I introduce him last, rightfully so. But he is back, G. Morgan Jr.,
Woo-hoo,
a married man.
That's
And I will
right.
say, I was
official.
I can confirm, I was at the wedding,
Okay.
and I was very surprised. She was actually just a cardboard cutout of Jack LaLanne. I was dumbfounded.
She still said yes.
So you came back from, what's the wine of the day?
The wine. So apparently, when I was gone, there was a bit of a thing about boxed wine. So boxed wine of the day, baby. Here we go. I am not too.
I don't know why Brodigan thinks that's so funny.
Well, no,
Because he did it.
I would go would go shopping, and I'd be like, I would go on Twitter saying, well, since I'm filling in for Gerald, the wine of the day is, should I pick this cheap red or this cheap white?
Is there good box wine? Is there any good? There is?
Yeah, there's plenty of. I mean, for people who just want everyday wine, not bad.
Would you marry a
But
woman who likes box wine?
I did.
Oh, Jack LaLanne likes box wine.
She likes great wine now too.
Okay.
I'm exposing her to a lot of great wines that she's really enjoying.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Quarter Black Garrett, of course, working
up,
here.
dog?
Showing your,
Boom.
pass. And Brodigan there in third chair. How you doing, Brodigan?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. We're doing well. And leading the
Very
news
well.
before. So
Very
good wedding.
relaxed, too,
You went
yeah.
to France. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yes.
Released all that tension.
Jeez, come on.
Of course, you had to have the Jack LaLanne cutout laminated.
That's true, unless you want to.
It's easier to clean that way.
He single-handedly keeps Amazon's nano cloth storefront in business.
That's right, baby.
Those things are remarkable if you haven't used them.
Fantastic.
Nano cloth, it's like a microfiber cloth
Yeah.
times a million.
Yeah.
It's just anyway, it doesn't matter.
Super micro.
Leading the news, of course, attorney, and we're going to get into Venezuela. That's the most.
Oh, yes.
We have to talk about Barr because
Yes.
we have to.
Yes.
But Venezuela, I think, is a
Absolutely.
race
We have
for
a
this
job
week.
to do.
So
Yes.
William Barr. He didn't attend the House Judiciary hearing today, for Thursday, those who are listening to the archive. Now, the main reason was a dispute over who'd be doing the questioning.
Yeah.
And he felt that he left it all on stage yesterday. And since we already analyzed it yesterday for Mug Club members in the Ash Wednesday, and you're probably tired of hearing about it, that brings us to Bill Barr's Def Comedy Jam. All right, so if you expect an analysis,
Yeah.
we ain't got it though, because this is just like the greatest hits for people who missed it for Bill Barr. Let's go to
Our
Bill
boy.
Barr's
Let's
greatest
do it.
hits,
Let's do
my
it.
boy, Senator Blumenthal, clip one.
Did anyone, either you or anyone on your staff, memorialize your conversation with Robert Mueller?
Yes.
Who did that?
There were notes taken of the call.
May we have those notes?
No.
Oh! Damn, son! You just got knocked the out!
Who had the power to make the decision about whether or not the evidence was sufficient to make a determination of whether there had been an obstruction of justice?
Prosecution memos go up to the supervisor. In this case, it was the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General who decide on the final decision. And that is based on the memo as presented by the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Oh! He just showed you, bitch! He showed you, bitch! Oh, snap! Oh!
I just want to nail down, you used the word spying about authorized DOJ investigative activities.
Frankly, we went back and looked at press usage, and up until all the FAW outrage a couple of weeks ago, it's commonly used in the press to refer to authorized activities, such as referring
But it's
to the
not
FISA court
commonly
as
used by the
spy court.
department.
What?
It is not commonly used by the department. My time is
commonly used by me.
Oh! Snap! Oh, yeah! Yeah! You just got knocked the out, bitch! You just got knocked the out! Oh! He served you! Oh! Oh!
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little winded.
Man.
How's it
Being
going, man?
a person of color is exhausting.
It's difficult, yes. This is awesome.
Oh man.
Man, that was good.
Wow, everything is so bright now. Okay, so for we could just don't. Now it's just Brodigan is just making all the noise. Like, you want to ruffle some chip bags into the microphone?
ASMR.
I was going to put the sunglasses back on. I don't know what happened to
We
them.
talked about this yesterday. This is just, we don't want to provide a full-on analysis because everyone's been doing it. But yesterday I said, watch, you're going to see tomorrow, the clips are going to be Kamala Harris and Hirono, and everyone's going to be saying, this is the ownage. This is the ownage because it's a soundbite. But none of it is true. That's what matters. I think we have Harris or just Hirono?
Hirono.
Okay, this is the one. I want to show
I'm
you the
sorry.
clip that the left has been showing as their big victory lap. For context, here's Hirono in questioning.
Do you think all of the things that President Trump did are okay?
I don't
This
think
is
the
not a
evidence
crime, but do
supports-
you think it's okay for the president
There we go.
to do
The
what he did,
investigation
to
was about
fire
illegality.
the special
Now,
counsel,
do you think
to
it's
keep
safe
him
the
from
president to do
investigating?
what he did, and I don't think the evidence supports
cannot
the
stand her.
proposition.
So I guess you
Did
think
it
it's okay.
to stop the investigation.
Do you think it's okay for a president to ask his White House counsel to lie?
Which
Look, if you're just
Bring
going to
back
go
the
back to
atomic
where
bomb.
the
Which event are you
crime, you're
talking
telling me
about?
that
Which
it's
event
okay.
are
Let
you
me ask
talking
you,
about?
do you think it's okay for a president to offer pardons to people who don't testify against him,
Wait, what?
to threaten the family of
What are
someone
you talking about?
who does? Is that okay?
When did he offer a pardon to someone?
I think
in
you
order
know
not to
what I'm talking about. Please. Please,
Oh!
Mr. Attorney General, give us some credit for knowing what the hell is going on around here with you.
Not really.
I give you no credit. None at all, Hirono.
That's ballsy
Zero.
right there.
Hold on. Can you give me any specifics? Okay, stop with the games. Hold on a second. Does this matter? You play game now. You don't play game here. Hold on a second. Is that a racial stereotype? Possibly. And then Kamala Harris asked a question. She asked him, did did Donald Trump or the White House ask you to investigate anybody? What? What kind of? And they're going, look at this. Oh, someone actually the succinct and pointed questions of Kamala Harris. It could not be less poignant.
Nice. And the Dems just won't let go of this. Like, she obviously has been caught right there. Give us some credit for knowing what we're talking about. No, you get no credit.
Not at all.
This is a losing strategy for you guys. How do you think this is a win to keep getting owned like this on national television?
By the way, I saw on the Young Turks, they were talking about this, and they said, we agree with the report that maybe there's no collusion, but there could have been obstruction. It could have been obstruction.
Come on.
Hold on a second. If you say there's no collusion, you agree. How can there be obstruction? And they're arguing now, his business ties with Russia. Hold on a second. That's not what you called an investigation for.
No.
That's not how, you want to set that kind of precedent where someone pulls you over for a broken taillight? Oh, wait, your taillight's not broken. Yeah, but I want to bring you into the shop because I think maybe you hit your kid. Do you have any proof? No.
We know.
You called for an investigation.
Yeah.
It's been done. He's not. Well, no, let's go to business. They never want to stop. That's the point. That's why I don't want to analyze it. He is the smartest guy in the room, though, and I did enjoy watching it. Here's your other hot take of the week. According to Yahoo, Game of Thrones, they keep killing off the entire immigrant populations.
Oh.
And that's a problem.
I mean, they're not wrong until they all died.
If they killed off the show, that'd be okay.
Yeah, at this point, I'm Team White Walker. Where once it
Bull
seemed
crap.
like the show had something to say about the topic of immigration, I'm no longer sure it's interested in such heady ideas anymore. Yahoo, spoiler alert, you're going to hate episode 6. Yeah, that's not.
Oh my gosh. The article
For the
goes on to it makes a really good point. Maybe there was a wall for a reason. They didn't understand the threat on the other side of the wall. And I'm like, that's like real life right now.
Well, wasn't it to keep out the gingers because it's a recessive gene and they
Pretty
taint your gene
much.
pool?
You don't want to have that.
I'm actually curious what a White Walker taco would taste like.
I have no idea.
Very cold.
I'm not sure.
I imagine they would stay away from the spice.
I don't think a show like that is supposed to be talking about those ideas anyway. They weren't
Who
making
cares?
any kind of
It's
a
a
point.
show.
This has gotten way too analytical for something that was meant to be stupid. International. By the way, people listening on
my
audio,
fault.
we get email. Just watch it. Okay. But what is this? It doesn't make any sense. In international news, anyway, a club is now teaching young boys how to be alpha males in order to fight K-pop's influence in China.
All right. Hey, I agree with this.
This comes from the LA Times.
I agree with this.
Tang Haiyan founded the Real Man Training Club to combat China's masculinity crisis, part of the backlash against the makeup and earring-wearing male TV, film, and K-pop idols. Leave it to China. And Haiyan's methods are actually being called controversial, particularly given his policy of hunting down and executing the entire cast of Glee. So that seems as though...
Wow. I was about to say
That original Photoshop, it was so close with the crying kid from Glee, we had to zoom in.
To me, the funniest thing about that picture actually goes back to the picture where you were like, what about the gay guy from Glee? You need to be more specific.
Right, yeah, pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of everybody from Glee.
Yeah, one of the guys was actually quoting. He said 20% of the people men were unfit for military service, and he went on to list like things that matter. You know, like they couldn't run, they were out of shape, they were watching too many YouTube videos, and they ate too much. And I was like, "What?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. What was
in the article?
Why is that the thing that ends up on the line
They
like
strip
unfit
off-
for service?
They strip off his badges. That's because you a whacker. You
Badge
go
of shame.
home like on your own time. You bring great shame with whacking.
Oh, God. And we're supposed
And
to be
Hirono's
concerned-
like, do you think it's good to
And the funny thing is, we're supposed to be concerned that China is going to take over the world.
Yeah.
They're too busy.
watching videos and
They do have a
according
lot.
to this.
Well, if they're getting rid of them, that must mean it's the exception. So they have a lot of time on their hands. Speaking of which, Moby, in his new memoir, he says that he was drinking heavily to process his grief over 9/11, and he claims that he rubbed his Doniger on President Donald Trump. This comes from Daily Beast. He said, "I drank a shot of vodka to brace myself, pulled my flaccid P word out of my pants, and casually walked past Trump, trying to brush the edge of his jacket with my wiener." Luckily, he didn't seem to notice. And actually, we uncovered exclusive audio from the concert in question.
Oh, wow.
Wobud. Oh, gross. And immediately, copyright from Moby.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was instant.
The funny thing is, he's talking about like he's drinking, he's doing drugs, he's having sex in tetanusy bathrooms. So he's doing all of these things, and then says that Donald Trump is the bad person in this story.
Right.
Yeah.
You're out doing all these things, and Trump's the bad guy.
That's gross, man.
And you rubbed your penis on him?
Why? Because he cut AIDS funding.
Right. Yeah. You're doing illegal drugs, sleeping with random people, and drunk for 3 months.
And you suck. Moby, that's the only song anyone remembers
That's the
from
main
Moby.
thing
My
that they
mom
suck.
worked with Moby on the French-Canadian Patrice Lécuyer show.
So
and
she's to blame.
He came in, and he was a jerk back then. Yeah, brother.
I just find it funny that this is the first time you've heard Moby's name since like he got dissed by Eminem in the diss track,
Right.
and he still is the one who looks like a douche in the situation.
Right. Pretty much. Which, by the way, not only is that sexual assault, but honestly, I don't really know how it's an insult to the person who is unwilling. He's the only unwilling participant. You rubbed your penis on another man.
And not to mention...
That's embarrassing for you. Not for him.
Isn't that something you would like do in elementary school or something like that? Like,
where did you go to grade school?
Apparently, a lot tougher place than you did. If you got a penis rubbed on you, it was on you.
Yeah, you know, kindergarten.
I don't know if I'd call that tough.
You know,
it was Neverland Academy. What are you talking
Were your
about?
teachers the village people?
Exactly.
What school did you go to?
No, but if you did something stupid
I got
like
punched. Did you ever once have somebody rub their schmeckle on you?
No, but I think kindergarten is his code word for honeymoon.
Yes, that's fair.
I had somebody try to like put like if you had your hand on your hip in the locker room or something like that, somebody would come up and like do it. It'd be funny to their friends. You know what I mean? Like they try to touch you, and you're like, "Oh, get away from me." You don't remember stuff like that?
No.
You were telling me
an
that
Oxford
story.
professor now is arguing that cut out of Jacqueline Lane, invisible aliens
Damn you.
are interbreeding with humans. This comes from
This is important. We have to
Oxford
focus.
student Dr. Young-Hae Chi, in case we didn't have all the Asians mad at us yet. In his 55-minute presentation, he cited an abduction researcher in the U.S. who argued that aliens' primary purpose is to colonize the Earth by interbreeding with humans to produce a new hybrid species. Second-generation hybrids are, according to Jacobs, walking unobserved among us. He also went on to note that he is single. Of course, some suspect ulterior motives given his recent launch of invisible aliens to have sex with Match.com. It seems as though there is a conflict of interest, which, unfortunately for him, most of all, proved to be unfruitful. Yeah, that's pretty...
Everybody gets blocked every once in a while.
I just don't think he's my type. Long walks on the beach? Could you be less original?
I just have one request. If there's an Alf comeback, it's because of this show.
I hope so.
Yeah.
There was an Alf comeback, wasn't there?
I thought there was.
If there's a
Wasn't
second
there?
Alf comeback, it's because of
I
the
really
show.
wanted Alf
Because of
to be
us.
better than it was. That's how everyone
I
feels
think you're
about
looking
Alf.
back with rose-colored glasses on that show.
You look back, it is paint by numbers that don't even line up.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, well, hold on a second. This is a number. This has 3 digits. It only goes up to 6. That's how bad Alf is.
Yeah. Isn't this the kind of story though that you do? The kind of article that you write that gets you punted from all kinds of academia, like you're never allowed back
It
in.
should be.
Not an academic.
This is,
No.
This should be
rewarded for it.
right. This should
That's
be
because you don't. You misunderstand.
get a
He actually
Pulitzer.
studied the relation between interdimensional invisible aliens hybridizing with humans in relation to climate change. So, $4 million grant.
There you
Yes.
go. Makes sense.
By the way, the winner of last week's trivia contest is Andrew Morales at DJAM32, who knew that Brodigan dressed up as Spider-Man
I
for
knew
the
that one
Oscars
too,
live
but I
stream.
wasn't eligible.
You were not. Isn't Morales? Isn't that the Spider-Man in the cartoon one?
That's Miles.
Miles.
Oh,
Miles
okay.
Morales.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
Okay, just a Latino name. All right,
That was
which
good.
brings us to the top 5 lessons learned from Venezuela. Let me ask you this. What have you learned most from the story unfolding in Venezuela? Everyone's been talking about Barr. This has been a little lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Nothing surprising.
No,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
they've really taught us a lot. So obviously they've reached a boiling point, right?
Yeah.
The citizens have been staging massive demonstrations against the dictator
Yeah.
Maduro. And by the way, how do you pronounce the name of the legitimate president?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Well, I know. Is
Trump.
it? We'll just say Juan. His last name is very hard for me to pronounce properly. Juan. President Juan Gaudo?
Gotta get that.
I don't know.
Juan-
I have no
Juan-
Not
idea.
gonna work
Guido.
here.
But anyway, they've been there have been demonstrations going on, obviously against dictator Maduro, who is not recognized. So Juan, the other guy, recognized as the interim president by both the United States. This is important to note, and other nations. Actually, I think do we have a clip and a freeze here
Yes,
to show you
freeze.
what's going on?
We
We just
can't
froze.
play
it.
that
We
thing.
can't show it because they've been running over dissidents with tanks. And Maduro is, for people who haven't been following, let me give you a brief kind of history lesson. He's a socialist turned dictator, but I repeat myself.
Is that better?
Yeah, slaughtering civilians. And,
Yeah.
and this is what's so important. People say, well, no, this is an example of pure socialism, okay?
Yeah.
The most tragic thing here is that it is entirely predictable. This
Yes.
isn't the first time this kind of a government has run people over with tanks.
No, it happens all the time. Armored personnel carriers in that state, but it doesn't matter. They ran them over.
And I was going to say, like, the most disturbing thing is, like, what's actually going on in Venezuela now is the stuff that we say sarcastically to socialists in this country that it's going to turn into.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And before you say that it's not true socialism, let me walk you through the top lessons we've learned as to why it is. Lesson number 5, by the way, is that democratic socialists are going to hate lessons 4 through 1. Hit the notification bell
and the
bookmark the page. Join up at Mug Club, by the way, because we're hitting everything's demonetized now. Of course, subscribe on iTunes. So the fourth lesson that I think is most important here is that socialism doesn't work. And I know this is a lot of people say, well, this isn't. No, hold on a second. We're not talking about places like Venezuela. Actually, do you know how I know you? Bernie Sanders and celebrities have long praised Venezuela and other South American socialist countries. What they did it when their economies seemed to work.
Way back in, 1961, they invaded Cuba. And everybody was totally convinced that Castro was the worst guy in the world, that all the Cuban people were going to rise up in rebellion against Fidel Castro. They had forgot that he educated their kids, gave them health care, totally transformed the society. You know, it's funny, sometimes American journalists talk about how bad a country is because people are lining up for food. That's a good thing. In other countries, people don't line up for food. But the rich get the food and the poor starve to death.
He doesn't his view is skewed because there's no lineup in the prune juice aisle. By the way, when people argue that it's not real, do you know how I know that it's not true? Still today, okay? Bernie still has an article on his website today, right now, that claims Venezuelans are living the American dream better than those in the United States. Today, right now, and I guarantee you, after this show, they'll probably wait 2 weeks until this blows over and then remove it, and then you can time machine go back to today, right now, this Thursday. What's the date?
May 2nd.
Thursday, May 2nd.
2nd still says on Bernie Sanders' website, official website, that Venezuelans are living the American dream.
Is that lining up for toilet paper and having to eat dogs because you're starving to death? I don't remember that being the American dream.
The idea, you cannot simply say it's not real socialism because it doesn't work now. You praised it. Bernie still praises it. This is what you wanted. It's what you got. It's over. You're done. Screw your attempted pivot to Denmark. They don't want you.
I don't want you. I don't love you. But I will give you one more chance.
Yes, sir.
The irony of all ironies here is that Bernie Sanders is setting up that capitalists are the worst people, right? Rich capitalists are the people that you have to hate. They're the ones that are taking from the economy.
I don't put words in mouth. Not that you have to hate they're the worst people, but he does vilify them more than socialist government. He does give the benefit of the doubt. They're the villain. Altruism to socialists.
They're the villain in the story, right? And he's supposed to be the heroine coming in to save you. He becomes the villain if his system, right? He becomes that same villain, right? Because who ends up with all the power, money, and control? The people in government. And who are the people that end up taking advantage of everybody else once they get that power? The people in government.
That's why it's important when people say when people say democratic socialism. By the way, Maduro was elected. If you say it was a special election because Chavez died, fine. So did Chavez was elected. You asked for this. The scales were tipped a little bit by endorsements from one Jeff Spicoli and Bernie Sanders. Still pretty fair and free. Sorry, leftists, you can't blame this on corrupt leaders.
No.
When your system, this is what the system of socialism is what grants them unbridled power in the first place.
Exactly.
The fact that a socialist turns into a dictator because you created the sole environment where he can become an all-powerful dictator is your fault.
Yes.
And we already did a video debunking John Oliver's lies, specifically on Venezuela, why it failed. You can watch it on the channel. But let me give you kind of a brief summary for people who don't understand. They try and say, well, it's about the economy. No, okay. Venezuela, most oil-rich country in the world. One of them, more so than Saudi Arabia. A lot of people don't know this. Chavez had the state run the oil industry instead of investing it back into the oil industry, investing profits
or
back.
in the economy to grow other sectors.
They used it to pay for a ton of socialist programs. That's why people liked them for a while, creating a bubble that burst when the oil market didn't do that well. So when people say it's all about oil, no. What was a road bump for the capitalist economies was an absolute disaster for Venezuela. And so before these protests, this is what's important to note. Right now, you see them being run over with tanks and shot by their government. It seems severe. But before this, they were starving. They were digging through trash for food.
Freddy Mata says it is the only way he can eat.
At least we have not died of hunger.
While he dislikes having to do this, he says he finds food that is edible.
So socialism doesn't just kill people by running them down with tanks. It starves them first.
Well, and socialism presumes that there is this benevolent class of geniuses out there that are able to run the economy and take care of everybody better than anybody else would be, right? History has never shown that to be the case. Anyone that gets into power and has power like that historically has always, like you said, led to being a dictator and killing their citizens.
That's why I can't stand West Wing. Every time you watch it, they just assume that everyone who happens to work for Martin Sheen has it
brilliant.
right.
Yeah, exactly. Why is that the case? Where does that come from? You've never seen an example of that in history. Why would you think it would happen now?
They didn't do it right.
Yes.
But
I don't mean
they're
success.
doing it the
No,
way
no, no,
you.
hold on.
They're doing it the way you told them to do it.
Crap. I don't mean. Look. I don't mean a successful socialist country. I mean a leader.
nice to hold Bernie Sanders to his own word?
That's just mean.
Give us credit for know what we talking about. You don't. You know nothing. Third one here is this is important, and I don't want to be simplistic. So let me back this up. Gun rights are necessary for a free society.
Essential.
So here you can see someone on MSNBC, actually admitting that Venezuelans are completely powerless because they don't have gun rights.
You have to understand in Venezuela, gun ownership is not something that is open to everybody. So if the military have the guns,
Why does that matter?
they have the power. And as long as Nicolas Maduro controls the military, he controls the country.
Uh-oh, did I just say that out loud?
That would never happen here, though. Come on. That would never happen here.
Was that Tucker Carlson in a fat suit?
How did that make air?
And here's the thing. I know what people are going to say. People have been saying this nonstop on social media. Like, it's what they call the reverse nirvana fallacy. I think they call it that in either rhetoric, logic, or philosophy. It's hard to know which is taught in college. I remember I learned about this in college. Well, the idea that. Well, hold on a second. If they had guns, do you think it would fix the problem here? The government has tanks. Okay, hold on a second. So let's, before we get into the statistics, let me ask you this. Do you think it's a better scenario that citizens are being defenselessly run over by tanks from their government as opposed to a civil war scenario where they fight back? So because they're completely defenseless right now and they're getting bazookaed to high heaven, you think they should have no way to defend themselves? I don't understand the argument. And by the way, it's also incorrect. With an unarmed population, Maduro is barely hanging on to power. Okay? If you dump 300 million guns into the mix, he'd be through.
Yeah, they're doing great with rocks and bottles right now. Can you imagine if they were armed in any way?
This is the idea. Is like, well, they would just nuke. Well, no, there's a ground war that needs to be fought, and right now they are fighting without guns. And the Second Amendment is designed specifically. This is where people miss it when they talk about it being hunting. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's designed specifically to prevent this kind of government from even attempting this sort of tyranny.
Oh, but that would never happen here.
Yeah, that's the next argument. It would never happen here. So let's just make sure that we have no fail-safe. Take the United States, for example. If you look at the numbers, we have a population of 320-something million people. Okay? We have 300-something million guns. I think it's over 30%. Oh, yeah, too cute, Maddie has the overlay. It is. It's over 30% of households who own guns. Our total military population is just over 2 million. That's including active and reserve personnel.
Yeah.
There's no chance of the United States gunning down its people because they know the citizenry is so armed. It cannot happen. And if you think, you think that genocide is better in Venezuela than a civil war, I need to hear your argument when you say that guns in the hands of civilians wouldn't help. I just don't agree.
No, absolutely. You have to have some kind of a protection. If these people had guns, Maduro would have stopped a long time ago, knowing that they would have come after him if he made those kinds of decisions that led to the conditions they're in now. He would have had a check against him, even if it wasn't used.
Just like we have a historical precedent for all socialist, Marxist, communist governments doing this, do we have any kind of a precedent for armed populations fighting people? Well, Switzerland weren't invaded during World War II, and I know some of you will say, well, they had a geographical advantage because of the mountainous regions. Okay, but you know what? Let's use another example. Direct quote from Japanese military. When they were asked why they didn't invade the United States after Pearl Harbor, said, there would have been a gun behind every blade of grass. By the way, Japanese very flowery. What's your excuse, Hirono? Don't you think I know how to do poetry? Give me credit. I give you no credit.
None whatsoever.
This is what's so important. It's so predictable. There's nothing unique about Venezuela. It would be, if you could find an exception, all big government and socialist leaders disarm their citizens.
Yes.
Soviet Union, Cuba,
one.
Nazi Germany. So socialism, disarmament is the rule. Not the exception. In every case.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm baffled at how people are forgetting recent military history. Vietnam. Vietnam. Think about this: insurgents will always outlast an invading. Always. You know why? Because
the Taliban.
They're not centralized. You can't, wouldn't they nuke them? Fine, they would nuke a city. There's millions more. We're not centralized, all standing in one place, saying we're going to fight you from here. It is one of the most impossible tasks. Look at Afghanistan. 10 years, 15 years later. We're still trying to take care of an insurgency. Right? So we would absolutely...
And we can't. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure we'll talk with Senator Rand Paul after the break, and he'll tell us that I know he doesn't think we should still be there because he thinks it's unwinnable. But say something, Brodigan.
That was because,
it's a good point.
To contradict Joe a little bit, when you think U.S. history only started in January 2009, what's a Vietnam?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I understand that, but man...
Well, lesson number
We're
2,
repeating
this
the
one is
history.
kind of an aside, but I wanted to include it, is that we learned that Trump isn't a Russian stooge.
Oh, really?
My important one, though, so this is really simple. Putin has supported Maduro openly and repeatedly.
Yeah.
Maduro was actually readying a plane, did you know that, to escape to Cuba?
Yeah, he was out. He was done.
Before the Russians convinced him not to. And
I don't know how.
back in January, Trump issued a statement officially recognizing one other guy, one other guy,
One last name.
as the
Other
interim
guy.
president of Venezuela.
Guaido.
And by the way, it's also important to note that Russia's had cozy relations with Cuba, and if you
Yeah.
look at Donald Trump and Bolton and their not only their sanctions but their rhetoric on Cuba, again, this just backs it up. But if you don't believe me, and I don't think you should believe me. You should never
Hold your
believe
feet to
me.
the fire a
Don't
little bit
believe me.
here.
Believe your lying eyes and believe your lying ears. Here's President Trump meeting with one other guy's wife, telling her that her husband is 100% the president. When asked about Russia, by the way, he couldn't be more clear.
We are with Venezuela. We are with your husband, as you know, and we're with the people that he represents, which is a big majority of the country.
Here it comes.
What sort of complications does the Russian involvement now pose? Russia has to get out.
What?
All right, what's your next question?
Someone's in the Kremlin's
Whoa! That's awesome.
What do you think about Russia? Scrub. Okay.
They
All
gotta
right.
get out.
Like, it couldn't be more forceful. Yeah, Brodigan.
No, I mean, I'm just thinking about this now. When Trump did this, didn't Cortez, Omar, and like the other Three Stooges like attack him for it? Like, why are you getting involved? We shouldn't be intervening.
No, I think you're thinking about Omar ranting about the Jews. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're getting it confused.
Hold on. I'm a little confused here.
I think you're right. They did. Yeah.
I have a legitimate question. So if Russia is this socialist, Marxist, whatever, like the alternative to capitalist society over here that they want to usher in, wouldn't they want Donald Trump to be a stooge of the Russians so that it would happen here? Why are they so opposed to the?
It's not really that anymore.
Why are they so opposed to the Russia connection if Russia has helped communism spread around the world and socialism by extension?
It's so confusing to me.
Right? Wouldn't they want that? Why are they fighting against that so much and tarring him like that?
Because you're a racist.
Well, hey, listen, no.
None of this makes any sense to me.
Hey, come on. I'm the host. Give me credit that I know a little bit what I'm talking about here.
No.
Well, hold on. Can you give me specifics? I relinquish my time. Here's the final lesson.
You have 4 minutes and 59 seconds left, sir.
Not only does socialism not work, but the macro really works. Socialism is outright evil, and I've talked about this many times.
Yes.
It's not compassionate.
No.
Maduro's army, they're running people down in the streets, shooting them.
Yeah.
This is where socialism always ends. How is there any question as to this being pure evil? Venezuela, again, it's not an outlier.
Nope.
For the 20th century, socialist, Marxist regimes have killed over 100 million people. Tell that to your edgy atheist friend who talks about all religions being fought in the name, all wars being fought in the name of religion.
BS.
And I don't understand. Please answer me. How is this a surprise to anyone? If only we had the literal exact comparison of a Marxist out-of-control government running over dissidents with tanks in the history books. Is it possible?
Somewhere, maybe.
You starting to get the picture? And this is the issue. We have to go to Senator Rand Paul in a little bit. Socialism, it can only function with an entirely powerless and entirely defenseless society. And the two are different things. When I say powerless, I mean people who are reliant on the government for their health care, reliant on the government for their education, reliant on the government for their welfare, for their ability to live. You suck the soul straight from somebody's body. And when I talk about defenseless, I'm talking about systematic disarmament. And one, of course, precedes the other. This is one thing, too, that you can't, I think Thomas Sowell talked about this. You can't blame the leaders who seize control that you've willingly given to them. At some point, maybe it was democratic, but guess what? At some point, it's not going to be. Let's not say Bernie Sanders is a Maduro. I don't think he would be. Maybe not the next guy, but it could be the next guy and the next guy and the next guy, and you're too far in because you're dependent on the government based on these policies because you thought you were getting a gimme. And let me something else here that I think is important to note. Capitalism is not flawless. No one here is arguing that. Free enterprise, of course, has its problems. But if I'm wrong, and this is the issue, the idea of dispersing power, of it not being centralized. If I'm wrong and Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos are corrupt and they become like Maduro's, you know what? Thousands of people lose their jobs. The economy is going to do pretty poorly. Yeah, it'll be catastrophic economically for a lot of people. If you're wrong, people get starved and run over with tanks. So if you're going to take the lesser of two evils, let me know what you pick. We have Senator Rand Paul after the break.
Yeah.
Let's all try some waffle. Let's all try some waffle. Let's all try